Well, welcome everyone to the latest edition of Political Power Ranker. Chris Berg here, Director of Politics for the affiliates for Nexstar Broadcasting. And joining me, the man of the hour, the man who's got most of the answers, Spencer Kimball, Emerson College Polling Director. Spencer, we've had another big week in politics, another big week where your numbers were scrutinized, and you picked a winner in Tennessee. Let's talk about that first. Tennessee had a special election this week for congressional seat number 7 there near Nashville, and there was some concern that Afton Bain was going to pull this out in a Trump plus 22 district over Matt Epps, the Republican candidate, open seat because of a resignation. Spencer, let's look at your numbers compared to what actually happened.
Yeah, it was an exciting race. We thought it was going to be more competitive than it actually became. And we'll talk about what happened over the course of the week. Because remember, we put out this poll, we have it at 49-47. The final results are 54-45. And so you can see the Republican picks up a lot of that undecided vote. But if you remember when we were talking last week, this was a local race. And in the early vote, it was 84,000 people had voted. And we thought that early vote was breaking for Bain. And based on what we saw in the returns, she wins that early vote by about 7 or 8 points. The difference was after our poll came out, the race really became a national race. And all of a sudden, I saw the candidates going on national television, and the tone of the race changed. And we can see that the Republicans got very motivated, and 100,000 people came out on election day to vote. We expected that number to be anywhere between 40 and 100,000. The 40,000 mark, the Democrats were going to be able to win. At 100,000, it was going to go to the Republicans. So as we watched over the course of the week and some of the differences, the campaign strategy, particularly from Bain, where she moved a little bit further to the left in those last few days, I think got the Republicans pretty excited and got them out to vote. And that's what kind of moved the numbers back to the Republicans' spot just outside the margin of error.
And the Republicans did all they could to make sure that this race was focused. They were focused on it. They did not want to lose this. Mike Johnson, Speaker of the House, showed up there. And he brought in Donald Trump by phone in one of his news conferences. And then the Oppo research. I mean, it just came out like a nuclear bomb that last week too, to put focus on the candidate herself, Afton Bain, and some of the words that she said. And she had a difficult CNN interview where she was asked about those questions, and that may not have been the best strategy for her because she was making it a national race, as you said.
Yeah, in my world, she went Hollywood when we were talking last week with Bob, and it was about being local and being able to connect with these voters. And she kind of changed positions at the end, and her vote was already banked in. She had the 84,000 votes from the early vote prior to our poll coming out, and she was winning that vote. And the change in strategy, maybe she thought she was going to come up short and needed some game changer, but evidently that didn't work out. And I think it slipped away from her.
So one quick little note here on the county by county breakdown. So 13 counties involved, 10 of
14.
them, 14, sorry, 14 counties involved. 11 of them, Ben Epps won by 60% or more, the Republican counties. Three, which you pointed out, were going to be kind of the bellwether, Davidson, Williamson, and Montgomery. She crushes it in Davidson, and that she needed to do that. But Williamson, she lost by 2-1 basically. But it was Montgomery that you pointed out that was very interesting.
Yeah, we thought Montgomery would be the bellwether of the race. And in that early vote, she was leading it by 2 points, that 55% that came in. The problem was, as that day vote came in, it just kept going. And I believe Van Epps wins it by about 7 or 8 points, which is essentially what he wins the race by. So it all really came down to that county, and the Republicans were able to get out their vote.
Interesting race, and it will have ripple effects on how people dissect it over the course of the next several months going into 26. Is this the Republicans righting the ship after a big loss in New Jersey, which is really the one they hope to have a lot closer, even win? And have they found
It,
the magic formula?
Well, it's still a 13-point drop. So it wasn't that the Republicans played at the same level that they played back. So in 22, there was 180,000 people that also voted in this. So we had the same turnout in the special election that we had in the 2022 midterms. That really tells you that they came out at the end in big numbers. But in that election, the Republican wins by 21 points. So you can see that there was some movement, but just not enough to win in a red state like Tennessee.
Right, right. Well, we are now moving to a bluer seat, bluer state, a different color, California, brand new poll. This is exciting because you've got some great numbers here to share. Let's talk about the makeup of the poll first, though. What is it? How'd you do it?
Well, again, we used our texting and online platform. So we text message out to about 30,000 residents in California. We have an online panel of opt-in people that we track over time. And that's how we collected it. It's got a 3% margin of error. And that's, when you look at it, it's really like 6 points in those ballot test questions. But we had our 1,000 people and we conducted it just this week.
And I want to ask one quick question. Why do you use online polling in California? You did it last poll too. Why is that important for you to get it right?
Well, in California, we actually have a larger online panel and it's more representative. And so we feel more confident using that data. But if we were in a state like Montana or New Hampshire, they have very limited online panels. And so we're less likely to use that data. It's not as representative. And so California, large state, large panel that we can pull from. And we're pretty confident in those being a representative sample.
Understood. Okay, now let's go to the big reveal. Where are we at in the big governor's race that everyone wants to know about and see?
Well, it looks like a toss-up amongst about four candidates right now. So we can see there's two Republicans up there, Chad Bianco and Steve Hilton. They're at 13 and 12. It's actually the first time Bianco's gone over Hilton in our numbers. It's by a point, but it's still some movement. We see Katie Porter dropping. She was around that 15 point. Now she's at 11. And the surprise is Eric Swalwell. He just jumps in this race along with Tom Steyer, but you can see Swalwell sitting at 12%. He's right in contention. Steyer, on the other hand, is down at 4%, who's got a lot of room to make up to jump into that top tier candidates.
And we can't talk about California polling without bringing in our expert from California, Nikki Lorenzo from Fox 40 and the host of Inside California Politics. Nikki, first time seeing these results. What are you thinking about the race and kind of the shakeup and the addition of Swalwell and Steyer jumping in too, but not doing quite as well as Eric Swalwell?
Yeah, great to be with you guys here on Political Power Ranker again. It's interesting. The big question throughout this entire race was, is the field set right now? Because no one's really been able to get in this race and sort of capture the attention of voters. Again, it was early. We talked about this in previous episodes with Prop 50 that sort of sucked all the air out of the room. But now things are really starting to take shape after Prop 50 and as we approach the beginning of the year. And we talked about this with Alex Padilla. We talked about this with Kamala Harris when she was. Is there someone that can come in and clear the field? Yes, Eric Swalwell jumped in. It's early. He didn't clear the field, but I always pay attention to that number, Spencer, that you have on there is the undecided. And to me, it says California is still undecided when it comes to this governor's race. And we're still talking about a couple of names, some Democrats that could potentially be jumping in here as we get into the beginning of the year.
And what names are those?
So we have Rick Caruso out of Los Angeles. He ran for mayor against Karen Bass, that race that was closely watched, and he spent a lot of money in that race. Is he eyeing a run for governor? Is he eyeing a run for mayor? I've interviewed him. He said that he's looking at three options, those two, and also staying a private citizen. But I'm told by sources that he has not made the decision yet. He really does not know if he's going to run for mayor or governor yet. He's going to take the holidays and make that decision at the beginning of the year. Another name that could potentially be in the race, and he's somebody that was talked about earlier this year, was the current Attorney General, Rob Bonta. Initially, he was talked about running. Then he came out and said, look, I'm not going to run. I'm going to stay and run for Attorney General. That's a safe seat for him. He will be elected the way that, look, I don't have a crystal ball, but looking at the makeup of California, the registration, that'll be a cakewalk for him to be AG again. But now there are rumors that he is going to be potentially looking at maybe running it. He's being drafted, but he's been pretty coy about something that a lot of people are pushing him to do.
Very interesting. A lot of drama yet to happen and unfold. All right, Spence, we got a lot of slides to get to. Let's go back and compare with what you did in October.
Well, as Nikki points out, that undecided vote has dropped 8 points, but it's still very undecided. And if I'm one of these other candidates looking at the field, it's all splintered. Everyone's at 10, 12%. There's no clear front runner where you'd be afraid to jump into this race. And that's why I think Swalwell jumps in, is that he thinks, hey, I could shake it up a little bit. And he did. He's at that 12% range. But again, he didn't clear the field. Katie Porter's still in there soaking up some of that vote, but that undecided movement is starting. It gone from 39 to 31, but it's still a third of voters, and so it's still wide open.
Let's go to the next slide, which is a Democratic voter only slide, because that is going to kind of get a sense of where we're at with the D candidates.
Yeah, exactly. Swalwell does slightly better. So you can see Swalwell's pulling from Porter. So what Porter was getting before, Swalwell has made an inroad with her and the Democratic voters. But overall, there's still 28% undecided, and they're looking for somebody. Plurality, 20%. We'll see if somebody jumps in within the Democratic Party, who is a darling, and all of a sudden they get 50% of that Democratic support, they would clear the field.
Nikki, what do you think of those numbers?
Well, and I go back to what you said, Spencer, about the Tennessee race, bringing out Going Hollywood. That's essentially what Eric Swalwell did when he jumped in the race. He announced on Jimmy Kimmel. He's been going on CNN, on MSNBC. He did have a writer, a longtime writer from the San Francisco Chronicle, who's very well known in the political reporting circles here, Joe Garofoli, who tagged along with him when he announced on Kimmel. But he's still appearing on MSNBC or MS Now, whatever it's called now that they've rebranded, going on CNN, fighting Donald Trump, suing the president. And, that could work with what he's done so far in terms of being that opposition to President Trump. But if you're running for California governor, at some point, people are going to want to know what you're going to do about the cost of housing. We have a budget deficit that's projected to be even bigger than what the governor projected just a couple of months ago. There are real issues in the state of California, and at some point, you're going to have to, that whole all politics is local. It's really going to have to focus on a more local approach, because that's what the candidates have really been pushing so far.
Spencer, do you want to react to that?
Well, let's jump over to the Republican side.
Okay, there you go.
Because I know we're running short on time.
No, that's all right.
But on the Republican side, we have the same thing. They're splitting the vote, and we still have 25% undecided. So remember, it's a jungle primary where your top two are going to go out. You can see the Democrats are splitting their vote. The Republicans are splitting the vote. So there's no real clear candidate on either side right now. And that's what makes this race so exciting for the next 6 months. New folks are going to jump in this race, and we're going to see a lot of changes over the course of this campaign.
And Nikki, what are you hearing and seeing about Chad Bianco and Steve Hilton, and just where they feel they are in the field of all these Dems? And realistically, does any Republican have a shot in California? And where are they at?
With all the Democrats splitting the vote, there are some consultants that like to put some potential upsets out there, some scenarios that might be a long shot. Could we potentially have two Republicans that advance to the runoff because all the Democrats split the vote? But neither of them seem to be wanting to get out right now and support the other one to make sure that we ensure, and meaning Californians ensure, there's a Republican in the runoff. I have to say, Steve Hilton he's everywhere. I mean, he is going up and down the state. The guy's on the road. He's doing podcasts from different areas of the state. He's on Fox News all the time, which is why you've been seeing him ahead in a lot of the polling that we've been doing with you, Spencer. So, they anytime they put a poll out that shows that they're 1 or 3 or 1 and 2, they run with it and they use it and blast it out on all their platforms. But in terms of a Republican winning statewide, I got to go back to former Governor Schwarzenegger. Last time we've seen it here in California.
Right, and that's been a while.
I would say when you add up the candidates, it's a 42-25 Democratic advantage because there's a lot of Democrats on that list.
Right.
The 25 is from the two.
But a plurality in a top two it helps them tremendously if you're a Republican. Well, we are running a little long in this segment, so we got to take a quick break. But when we come back, we got more detail on how this governor's race is shaking out, especially with the Swalwell campaign. So you're going to want to stick around. We'll be right back. Well, welcome back to Political Power Ranker, where we are tracking the governor's race in California. Spencer Kimball from Emerson College Polling and Fox 40 political anchor Nikki Lorenzo joining us again for her analysis. All right, Spencer, we've been talking a lot about the horse race, but let's break down a little bit more on the newest entrant, Eric Swalwell, congressman from the Bay Area.
Yeah, so Swalwell jumps in this race and he basically jumps right into contention. When we dig into those numbers, we notice that he struggles with younger voters. So some of us might remember his presidential run in 2020 and his candidacy out there, but he's not connecting with younger voters right now. And we'll see if he's able to. Katie Porter wins 10% of the 18 to 29. He's winning 1%. So we'll see if his media strategy changes where he is able to connect with those younger voters. And then on top of it, when we look at those undecided voters, they're also young. They're disproportionately under 40. So it seems as if this group of voters isn't really being communicated with by the current crop of candidates. And we'll see if one candidate is able to get that youth enthusiasm on their side, because it seems to be sitting on the sideline. Nikki, do you see similar reaction in the state?
Yeah, and I will say about Katie Porter, this is something that she's a prolific fundraiser in terms of those small donors. She's really big on social media. She has a really strong digital game too. I mean, I get messages from her campaign all the time. It's going to be interesting when we talk about California. It's where's the money coming from? And we haven't talked about it a ton, but Tom Steyer came out, big ad buy right out of the gate. $2 million. I'm watching football. He's every other commercial, cable news, every other commercial, just sunk 20 million of his own money into his campaign yesterday, according to reports. So we'll see if that turns into anything, but also where's Swalwell's money going to come from? Billionaire Stephen Klubeck was in this race. He barely registered at 1%. They are close. And he dropped out of the race because he said that he feels like Swalwell's the guy. They go way back. Is Stephen Klubeck going to bankroll Swalwell now? Because again, need a lot of money to run here. But when I see those numbers in terms of the older voters, Spencer, that's the cable news crowd, right? And that's who Swalwell's speaking to. So he's going to have to get out there, get on TikTok, hit the road and talk to voters if he wants to engage those younger folks here and turn them out.
Yeah, and we'll see how successful he is. So right now they're not voting for him. He's got to have a message that resonates with younger people, that they're going to be attracted to his campaign. Now, I thought he was able to do that to some degree in his presidential run. We'll see if he's able to mimic some of those issues in this run, more progressive issues. But when we do take a look at those name recognition questions, we see Swalwell trails Porter, but more importantly, Tom Steyer, he's sitting at 62%, unsure, never heard of. He was at 63% last month. So whatever he's done for the last 4 to 6 weeks hasn't really moved the needle for Tom Steyer in this race so far. And I wonder maybe if his brand is a little damaged as he tries to enter the race.
Using Zohran Mamdani's blueprint in New York as a social media engagement leading his campaign, really, there's one big difference between him and the whole list of candidates in California. He's a really engaging, interesting social media person. He's unique in his presentation. And if you're red, blue, in between, you just kind of like the guy as he presents himself on social media. I just don't see that same level of engagement that these other candidates are providing on social media. Nikki, do you want to react to that? Am I off base here, or what are you
No,
thinking?
I 100% agree with you. There's a missing element of authenticity in this race right now. And especially when you're talking to younger voters and just taking a page out of that New York mayor's race, affordability is the issue here. California is unaffordable. That is what every single candidate, whether you're a Democrat or a Republican, that's their message in this race. And, Katie Porter has used what she's used in the past. I'm the mom. I'm the one who's pushing the grocery cart. I know what things cost. These people are out of touch. I'm running because I've got 3 teenagers at home. And if we don't fix California, they're going to be living on my couch forever. So there is, I think she's the only one that's really sort of effectively tapped into that message. Eric Swalwell's a younger guy too, and he does a lot of posting on his Instagram. Any sort of viral video that's popular with the kids. He's doing a version of that in his congressional office, but I haven't seen anything from him in terms of reaching out to California voters. He's got some time. He just got in the race right now, but clearly what we're seeing, the old playbook, Tom Steyer running ads during football games and cable news, as you pointed out, Spencer, hasn't resonated just yet. But all of the candidates, as of right now, I don't see anyone Mamdani-esque.
Let's look at unfavorable and favorable numbers now, because that will kind of tell us another story too, Spencer.
Well, first, they got to define themselves to the voters. You can see a majority of voters don't know Swalwell or Bianco or Hilton or Steyer. And so half of the people are like, I don't know these people. I have to start to learn who they are over the next 6 months. Remember, this election's happening in June. So I know we're in the holiday season, but come after New Year's, I propose that you're going to see that undecided number start dropping each month as a lot more advertising comes out there. But they're all pretty much split when you look at those favorability ratings. Nobody's underwater, but nobody is, vastly popular at this point. So that does leave room for somebody else to enter the race.
Is that strike? Do those numbers on the unfave strike you anyway, Nikki?
It doesn't at this point. They're not surprising to me at all. These candidates have some work that they got to do, and again, it's going to go back to, are you going to have a message that's going to make my life better? It can't just be, and we've seen this nationally too, where Democrats have struggled. Donald Trump bad. Yes, that's going to turn out voters in an election, a special election like Prop 50, where you have Governor Newsom pushing a certain message. But when we're talking about a governor's race and we're getting into June of next year, every single Democrat has been basically saying California is unlivable and we got to we got to fix that. And I'm the person that's going to do it. But how you're going to do it, there really hasn't been a strong, specific message. And I've heard this from Democratic consultants who have said they're frustrated right now because they haven't really heard a solid plan on what any of these candidates want to do just yet. So they really got to work on that.
I think it's a great segue to jump over to what's really important to voters again with issues, and it's really the economy. Stupid.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Nikki points this out. Housing affordability, it has not changed. This is, for months we've been looking at it. People have to address these issues. It's 56 to 59% of voters saying pocketbook issues is what my major concern is. And that's what they're going to want to hear about. So to Nikki's point, we can talk about threats to democracy and even immigration to some extent, but they're going to want to hear about how their life is going to become more affordable in the next 2 years or so.
Nikki?
Yeah, and we can also point to the fact that these candidates really haven't, especially the couple of the big names in Katie Porter and Javier Becerra, they've spent a decent amount of time over the past couple of months cleaning up, things that they didn't think they would have to. Of course, Katie Porter with the viral videos, and then Javier Becerra with his former chief of staff, being indicted on corruption and other crimes, pleading guilty to that, entering plea deals. So these candidates have spent some time cleaning up some messes. Again, it is early, but this is a time where you want to be sort of setting yourself apart and defining yourself, because as we know, once the new year hits, it's going to be a quick race, and June's going to be here before we know it. And especially if these Democrats stay in, and from what I'm hearing, even the lower tier candidates, I'm like, are you guys you're barely registering, you're here, 2-3%. As of right now, no one's getting out. No one's going to coalesce behind one Democrat. They're all staying in.
One other thing, and as a quick answer, Nikki, from you, we didn't talk about at the top when we talked about the horse race was Javier Becerra and where he's at about 4%. Name recognition is through the roof after everything that's happened over the past several weeks since the last poll. But he's not close to where the other guys are. And Swalwell walks in and he's at, 12%.
Again, former cabinet secretary, attorney general of California, been in the race longer. And, is what the saying, there's no such thing as bad press, his name in the headlines, and he hasn't moved. And I mean, he's not chipping away at Antonio Villaraigosa either, who has, sort of operated that moderate lane of let's work together and let's get California on this affordability track, reaching out to Latino voters, doing a lot of ads in Spanish. He hasn't really pulled from him. And correct me if I'm wrong, Spencer, I feel like Antonio sort of maintained that, that 5%. He hasn't really dropped a whole lot, right?
I think he's been at 5% in every one of our polls.
Yeah, okay.
He's got a very solid base of support. He's been around. They know him, and
Yeah.
they're with him still. He might melt later, but yeah, you're right on that analysis.
Yeah, Becerra's not taking from him. So, and I know from sources that, they Antonio's camp wants to pull from Becerra's camp right now. And you saw that after the interview we did with him, they immediately took our interview and made an attack ad with it.
But you're only pulling 5%. Even if he took the whole thing, which he wouldn't, he's still in single digits. He needs more strategy, unless we're going to have a really open race and 20-25% gets you the gets you to the runoff.
Yeah, but just to the point of being like, you have a former LA mayor who hasn't been in office for a long time, a former cabinet secretary, and he can't overtake him.
Right. Well, we got a hard stop here, guys,
Yeah.
because we're running long. We'll be back with the best part of the show, who's up and who's down. We'll be right back. All right. What you've all been waiting for, who's up and down this week from Spencer. Spence, who's up?
Well, as we take a look at that plasma screen, we have Eric Swalwell up this week. He jumps into this gubernatorial race and he's at 12%. A lot of other candidates have tried to do that and have not been that successful. So we put Swalwell up this week and we'll see if he's able to maintain that momentum.
Well, we'll be watching for sure. And now who is down?
Down this week in the same race that we're looking at, Tom Steyer. He jumps into this race and he's at 4%. So he spent a lot of money in the state. People kind of know who he is about, but he's not resonating with voters. So we have him down at this time.
Nikki, a couple of quick thoughts to wrap this up.
Yeah, Eric Swalwell, a lot of momentum as he gets in this race, going to be riding that. Tom Steyer spending the money again, a couple $1 million right out of the gates with ad buys in Sacramento, San Francisco, and LA and San Diego, the big media markets. Swalwell has yet to, get some ads out there. We'll see if he maintains this status next time we do some polling.
Well, there you go. There's California and a wrap on Tennessee. I want to let everyone know, make sure you tune into Nikki and her Inside California Politics show. It's on fox40.com. So every week she's got an excellent guest. She broke the Becerra story. She broke the Katie Porter interview a couple months ago now. She is leading the way in California politics. So tune into her. And thank you very much for watching Political Power Ranker. We'll be back next week with a brand new show. So look for us. Thanks very much, everyone. See ya.